In this episode of True Crime Black, we look at the mysterious disappearance of a young black woman. At just the age of 18, she went missing right outside her family's apartment building. Strangely, a family member saw her get out of her boyfriend's vehicle and head toward the apartment complex. So how did she never make it inside? Throughout this episode, we hope to find the answer to that question. With that said, let's get started. Just a few years ago, the disappearance of Gabby Petito received widespread media attention, with countless news stories, social media posts, and hashtags capturing the nation's focus for months. But in Montgomery, Alabama, a different story was unfolding. During that time, Marchelle Goldsmith reveals that she has been left to search for her missing daughter without that same level of support. Marchelle Goldsmith believes that factors such as her race, age, and background have influenced how the Montgomery Police Department has handled Lakira's case. Sadly, Lakira is just one among many missing individuals of color whose stories often go unnoticed by the national news media. Reports and studies have highlighted the existence of resource disparities and a general lack of attention when it comes to these cases, a disparity that became starkly evident during the extensive coverage of Gabby Petito's search. When it comes to white people or college students, they put in the effort to get search teams to look for them. It's not fair to my daughter. She's a missing person too. They should take every case seriously and put in the effort to find these people, Marchelle Goldsmith said. What happened to Lakira Goldsmith, a 20-year-old mother from Montgomery, remains a mystery. A mystery that is not even close to being solved to this day. On the evening of November 27, 2018, a few days after Thanksgiving, Lakira had plans for a date with her boyfriend. He picked her up from her grandmother's apartment, and they set out for the night. In the early hours of November 28, Lakira's grandmother noticed a car pulling up outside the apartment. Assuming it was Lakira returning home, she saw her granddaughter exiting the vehicle. Happy that Lakira had safely returned, her grandmother retired to bed. Mysteriously, Lakira never entered the house that night. Since then, there have been no sightings or communications from her. But how can that be possible when her grandmother saw her right outside the house? That question hasn't been answered. Lakira Goldsmith, born on July 24, 1998, had a loving family network throughout her life. While details about her upbringing remain scarce, we do know that at the age of 18 in 2016, Lakira became a mother to a baby boy whom she adored. Despite her young age, Lakira embraced motherhood wholeheartedly and was dedicated to caring for her son. However, her life was not without challenges. Lakira suffered from severe asthma and relied on regular medication to manage her condition. Her asthma was so severe that she had been hospitalized multiple times due to asthma attacks. Despite her own health struggles, Lakira was known for putting others before herself, even if it meant risking her own well-being. Although it is mentioned on her social media that Lakira hails from Rochester, New York, there would be a change in her living situation. In 2018, it was reported that she was residing in Montgomery, Alabama. Her family, including her mother and grandmother, also lived in the same area. In the aftermath of Thanksgiving in 2018, Lakira excitedly prepared for a date night with her boyfriend. She adorned herself in a black velvet knee-length dress, complemented by a silver rhinestone choker necklace, silver rhinestone earrings, and a silver lip ring. With her outfit complete, she embarked on the evening's plans. She would not return home for several hours. As the clock struck midnight, Lakira's grandmother heard the sound of a car outside. Peering through the window, she saw Lakira exiting her boyfriend's vehicle as he dropped her off. Assuming she would soon join them inside, her grandmother retired to bed. To everyone's dismay, and their extreme confusion, Lakira never entered the house. The following morning, concern grew among her family members. They walked throughout the apartment complex asking their neighbors if they had seen Lakira or anything noteworthy. They were hoping that there was someone who was looking out their window at that time. Sadly, they weren't getting any help from that end. While that was happening, Lakira's mother contacted the police to report her daughter missing. Frustratingly, the law enforcement response was minimal, leaving her family to take matters into their own hands and intensify their search efforts to locate Lakira. Despite the family's desperate pleas for assistance from law enforcement, the response they received seemed lackluster and indifferent. Initially, one could assume that the authorities were stretched thin due to the size of Montgomery being the state's capital. Understaffing is a common issue in many places, and it often hinders law enforcement's ability to give each case the attention it deserves. While this explanation is disheartening, it may have been a plausible reason for the initial lack of action. However, certain factors emerged that cast doubt on this theory. Other cases involving missing women in Montgomery received significant attention. These cases were being pursued, developed, and nurtured in a way that Lakira's case was not. This would indicate that, despite the lack of resources the police department may have had, there is still a chance to see progress in your case if the interest is there from law enforcement. Additionally, several months later, it came to light that Lakira's case had never been entered into the Alabama database, an alarming oversight that raised further questions and reinforced the suspicion that her case was not being held in any sort of positive regard. Furthermore, details emerged about a maintenance worker at the apartment complex who claimed to have encountered Lakira on the night she disappeared, or technically, it would have been in the early hours of the morning. The source of this information remains unclear, whether it was the family or the authorities who uncovered this crucial piece of potential evidence. After getting out of her boyfriend's car, as witnessed by her grandmother, Lakira began walking towards her apartment. According to a maintenance worker at the complex, she approached him and asked to use his phone. He obliged and stepped away to give her privacy. Then, when the maintenance worker returned a few minutes later, Lakira had vanished, leaving his phone behind on the nearby stairwell. He retrieved his phone and went back to his apartment. Several aspects surrounding this alleged encounter raise many unanswered questions. One puzzling detail is the absence of Lakira's phone. According to her family, she had her own cell phone that she could have used to make that phone call. Even if her phone had died, she was directly outside of her apartment building. She could have gone inside to use her family's phone instead of relying on the presence of a stranger. That leads to the next question. Why didn't Lakira enter her apartment unit before making the call? Why did that call need to take place so soon after she arrived home that she couldn't go inside? Lastly, there is the question of who Lakira was urgently calling at such a late hour. What makes this case even more frustrating is that we can't even say for sure that Lakira did encounter the maintenance man that night and used his phone because the police never checked his phone records. This is just another example of how police indifference can lead to a case going cold. Lakira's mother speculated that she may have decided to visit her friend's house that was a couple of miles away. Consequently, her family searched the surrounding area, including the route between Lakira's apartment on Narrow Lane Road and her friend's place in the Newtown neighborhood of North Montgomery. This distance encompasses approximately 10 miles, and they feared that something might have happened to Lakira while she was en route. Given Lakira's severe asthma, her family grew increasingly worried that she might have experienced a medical emergency and required immediate assistance. The physical search for Lakira was primarily conducted by her concerned friends and family. Her mother also attempted to garner media attention for her daughter's case, but she unfortunately received minimal response from news outlets. The devastating fact at the time was that other cases of missing women were receiving more attention in the media. That left Lakira's family wondering why they couldn't generate more awareness and support for her disappearance. Montgomery, the capital city of Alabama, is a bustling and populated area with over 200,000 residents. Situated along the Alabama River, the city covers a vast area of more than 150 square miles. Although there are parks within the city, the urban nature of the area makes it less likely for someone walking at 2 a.m. to be seen. Unfortunately, Montgomery has a reputation for being a city with a relatively high crime rate. According to crime statistics, the city's violent crime rates have been unfavorably compared to other large cities in Alabama. While Montgomery had favorable crime rates in comparison to cities like Huntsville, Mobile, and Birmingham in 2009, crime has been on the rise in the 2010s and early 2020s. In 2021, the city witnessed a record high number of shooting victims and homicides. In terms of property crimes, Montgomery's average aligns with other large cities in Alabama but exceeds the overall state and national averages. The presence of the Alabama River adds another dimension to the city, with stretches of wooded areas bordering its banks. These patches of dense woods along the river can pose challenges in search efforts and further complicate the search for Lakira if she ventured into these areas. Considering the distance between Lakira's apartment on Narrow Lane Road and the Newtown area, it is evident that it would have been quite a journey for her, especially on foot. The approximate 6 to 10 mile distance suggests that she would have needed some form of transportation to reach her friend's place, if that was truly where she went that night. Given the late hour and the lack of information available, it is unclear how Lakira intended to travel to Newtown. It is possible that she had access to a vehicle or planned to use public transportation, but without further details, it is difficult to determine her intended mode of transportation. Additionally, it is worth noting that Newtown is closer to the riverbank area, which may have influenced Lakira's possible route. Without more information, it remains speculative to draw any conclusions about her specific travel plans on the night she went missing. Despite the limited media attention surrounding Lakira's case, there have been discussions and comparisons made between her disappearance and that of Anaya Blanchard, which has garnered significant media and law enforcement attention. Anaya was reported missing in October 2019, almost a year after Lakira vanished. Surveillance footage showed Anaya with Ibrahim Yazid, a man from Montgomery who had a violent criminal history and was out on bond for attempted murder at the time. Ibrahim was charged with kidnapping and later with Anaya's murder when her remains were found in a wooded area in Macon County. While the exact connection between Lakira, Anaya, and Ibrahim is uncertain and unconfirmed, locals familiar with the case suggest that there may have been some association between them. There are suspicions that Ibrahim could be a possible suspect in Lakira's case as well, but those claims require further investigation to determine their validity. Another missing person case in Montgomery is that of Donna Calloway, a 39-year-old black woman who disappeared in June 2018. As was the case with Lakira, law enforcement and media attention towards Donna's case were minimal. Her family suspects she may have fallen victim to human trafficking, due to her trusting nature. When seeking comments on Lakira's case, the Montgomery Police Department declined to provide information on active cases. The possibilities regarding Lakira's disappearance are numerous, with no clear leads pointing in any specific direction. While her boyfriend does not appear to be a person of interest, it remains unclear if he witnessed Lakira walking to her apartment that night. The maintenance man's statement indicates that Lakira used his phone, but it is unknown who she called or attempted to call at 2 a.m. Other details, such as the maintenance man's observations and the investigation into the potential connection with Anaya's case, remain uncertain. Throughout this ordeal, everyone who knew Lakira agreed that she would never willingly leave her family and her young son. As time passes, her son continues to grow up without his mother, which is a heartbreaking reality for her family. Lakira's mother has taken an active role in seeking answers and support by creating a dedicated Facebook group for her daughter's case. Despite the lack of assistance from authorities, Lakira's mother has taken extensive measures to search for her daughter, leaving no stone unturned. Lakira Goldsmith was last seen in November 2018 at the age of 20. She is described as approximately 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighing around 150 pounds. At the time of her disappearance, Lakira was wearing a black velvet knee-length dress, a silver rhinestone choker necklace, silver rhinestone earrings, and a silver lip ring. She had blonde hair extensions. It is crucial to note that Lakira suffers from severe asthma and requires ongoing medical attention and treatment. To this day, we still don't know what happened to Lakira Goldsmith.